Is going on, guys? Welcome to an episode of Only Football. Today has been a pretty big day for the NFL, and there's been quite a bit of news. So I wanted to take some time to tell you that there is some very good news for Broncos country, but there is also just some news overall. But not to make this a Broncos episode, but some of the storylines, I'll give you a warning, there are three of them that are going to be about the Broncos. Hold on one second. I have to answer this. This is DoorDash. Hi, I called the front desk. They said that you could just leave it there. Okay, thank you. Bye. And wildly unprofessional. I just called the front desk before I went live to avoid that entire situation, but wasn't able to do it. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some of the news. I'll start with a medium level news, and that is that Frank Clark, an ex Kansas City Chief, is joining the right side. He is no longer the enemy, for he is with us and he will help us on our quest to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs. Something we haven't been able to do in the last 12 times that we've played them. Nobody's going to know the Kansas City Chiefs like Frank Clark. So I think a lot of people are making a lot of Frank Clark and his ability. He has been a very effective pass rush. He does have some off the field concerns dating all the way back to when he was in college at Michigan, domestic violence. I want to be careful how I word this because Denver has done a very good job of making sure that the people that they draft and the people that they bring into the program are actually very good locker room guys. And Frank Clark doesn't really meet that criteria. And this is kind of the Sean Payton era. So everything that happens to the Broncos is being kind of seen in the lens of, is this Sean Payton's way? The people he's choosing is a big part of that. Well, that's why I said I want to be careful how I say this, because I do think that Denver needs some dogs. They need some people that are going to just play a little dirty, be aggressive. There's nothing wrong with, and as I say that, I still don't really like the way it sounds. It almost sounds like I'm advocating for, just bad people to continue to make a lot of money. But I don't know him as a person, and he is now a Bronco. So it is, obviously I'm biased towards it, but I haven't heard his name come up in anything recently. But usually with the off the field issues, typically Denver would steer away from a guy like that. We did grab Randy Gregory, who was suspended almost as much as, let's say, a guy like Josh Gordon in his first 5 years. But now we're going to hopefully get him at an age where he's kind of past that. That's another thing that I thought was important that wasn't brought up on some of the podcasts I was watching earlier, was that they did mention that he had some off the field problems, but nobody mentioned that when you get older, you tend to settle down. You tend to go to bed a little bit earlier, just not be in the environments that typically you would get in trouble in. But the whole thing about Randy Gregory was also kind of outside of the comfort zone. And nobody, if we would have got Randy Gregory this year, people would have been like, look, Sean Payton doesn't care about, smoking pot, right? But we got him last year. But we're doing something similar with Frank Clark. And it's like, look what Sean Payton's doing. I do think that this is a person that Sean Payton wanted. I think he was waiting for the right time. This is a friendly deal for both parties. It's a $5.5 million guaranteed contract. I'm going to read it off for you right now. It's worth a maximum of $7.5 million with incentives. So the going rate for a pass rusher a couple years ago was about $1 million per sack. All right. And now it's up to about $2 million per sack. That's what these guys are getting paid. And with that math, if he gets, even if he gets just 7 to 9 sacks, this is good value. He landed on a free agent market in early March, but nobody picked him up. So I do think this is a win-win for Frank Clark. You're just sitting on your couch in June, and you get him, $5 million deal guaranteed, and it definitely the value works out for Denver as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. The Broncos haven't released anything official, but from the boots on the ground at the facility today, it was brought to our attention, and this is unfortunate, but Barrett Browning, our I was it a second round draft pick, maybe a third round draft pick last year, or was it Barrett? No, it wasn't Barrett Browning. It was oh my gosh, I think it was Barrett Browning. In my head, I was thinking it was Nick Bonito. This is so much worse than I thought. Well, apparently there was a severe injury um, that has just taken place. So it's not so much Denver was waiting for April 8th. I believe it's April 8th. Yeah, it's not so much they were waiting for April 8th, but something came up, and we had a concern with our depth, so we made this move. Clark's accepting a 1-year deal contract with a team that made a splash at edge a year ago with Randy Gregory. And if we could get Frank Clark and Randy Gregory, and yeah, now that Barrett Browning's gone, and that hasn't been released officially, hopefully he is okay. I would much rather this be that we just want more depth, not that we lost a player. But I just don't know the extent of it right now. But Clark has done pretty well in his career. He's earned $75 million in his 8-year career. He'll make up to 10% of that total this year. More importantly, he'll have a job in a division he knows well from his time in Kansas City. Now, I'm hoping that does help us a little bit. Now, Denver had a pretty good defense last year. You've heard, if you watch this channel, you've heard me say a million times, if we score more than 16 points in regulation, we would have been close to being a first seed in the playoffs around week 13 last year. Well, nothing I love more than when it rains, it pours. And I mean, you talk about a defense that doesn't really have any huge holes, in my opinion, and they're already playing at a high level, and you just continue to stack players. I love that. And I guess I'll just roll right into this next piece here. The probably the biggest news that I have is that Delvin Cook is going to be a free agent. He's being released from Minnesota tomorrow. They tried to trade him one last time today, and they weren't able to get it done. So I was thinking about this. I had a little commute in a car today, and I sat in the back and I thought about it, and I said, man, Delvin Cook just seems like such a good player to get absolutely nothing for. I did some reflecting, and I thought, well, Delvin Cook, if you drafted every year, let's say your first round draft pick, it depends on your philosophy as a team. Like, is your goal to have a Delvin Cook type impact player for 4 or 5 years and then get rid of them? That's kind of what Detroit's doing. It's not so much a fan's favorite because you fall in love with the guy and then you kick him out. But we do have to note that it is not every year that you get to draft a player like Delvin Cook. We get a lot of first round busts. It's a gamble. So when it does work out, it's almost like you're taking it for granted, just assuming that you could draft another Delvin Cook next year. So I I think for Minnesota, this is probably very bitter. And from a person that loves Florida State, I've always known Delvin Cook was going to be good. And you guys don't even know yet what Cam Akers is, but I've been saying it all last year. Cam Akers is going to blow up. And then we got a glimpse of it towards the end of the season. But when the Rams were thinking about trading Cam Akers, I said on this show, that was a huge mistake. Cam Akers was a very solid running back at Florida State. So was Delvin Cook. They're both going to be good for quite a little time left. And the teams that are looking at Delvin Cook, as per Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, the Miami Dolphins, and the Denver Broncos. Now, this is something that would make sense if you guys don't know. Javonte Williams He was a second-year running back last year, drafted out of North Carolina, broke the most tackles as a running back in his senior year, or his last year in college. I'm not sure if he was a junior or senior, but he came into the NFL and he was an amazing running back right away. Um, and we knew he was going to be that dude, but he did get a severe injury year 2, right around before the middle of the season, that kept him out for the entire year. We were expecting to not even know if he was going to be playing this year or if he was only going to be playing late in the year. It turns out that he's doing pretty well, and he's way, way above, or way past where we thought he would be, as he's already training in OTAs. So that is very good news, and it's almost a little bit of a head scratcher when you think about the Broncos being surrounded around this. Now, what I think immediately is that Delvin Cook and Javonte Williams, if you're really worried about Javonte Williams, then you're going to have him on a pitch count. And if you're going to have him on a pitch count, wouldn't it be? I mean, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they did the same thing, where one goes out, the other comes in. Somebody's always fresh. Um, I can't tell you how excited I would be if he does come to Denver. And I know Sean Payton, he's just kind of on a spending spree. I thought we were out of money, but with Denver's name being linked to Dalvin Cook, I guess, I don't understand how all of that works. Maybe some fans do, but all I know is when we have money and when we're out of money. And when we make moves when we're out of money, I never know how we got money. I mean, it's just the world that we live in. I mean, I assume when you're the Rob Waltons and you own the Broncos, you can, manipulate the salary cap and create money where there is no money. Things that the billionaires can do that we don't even understand. But the other team was the Miami Dolphins. And when I thought about the Miami Dolphins, I was like, okay, well, Dalvin Cook would be returning home. He is a Florida guy, South Florida, Florida State. So I do think that he would be more inclined to take a team-friendly deal in Miami. But there's going to be many teams that are going to be going after Delvin Cook and pursuing him. It's not just the Broncos and the Dolphins. So if you're a Dolphins fan or a Broncos fan, I would say hold off on getting too excited, because you're not the only two teams that are going to be going after him. You're just the two teams that are linked right now. But whoever does get Delvin Cook is going to upgrade on offense immediately. And if it's the Miami Dolphins, if Tua can stay healthy, I already have the Miami Dolphins as the number one offense this year. The fact that they were able to finish fifth in yards when they didn't even have their quarterback half the season. This Dolphins team, I mean, they're coached. Mike McDaniel, he's the real deal. There's no question there. Tyreek Hill and Waddle are two of the best yak yard receivers in the entire NFL, and they're on opposite sides. I mean, this team is going to be loaded. And if they could get themselves somebody like Dalvin Cook, I can't even imagine what that would do for a team that's already in pretty good shape. So we'll be following that closely. Tomorrow will be the day that he is going to be released. The NFL did put out an article, Dalvin Cook's landing spots, and they did 17 fits. Miami was number 1. Denver's number 2. I didn't read this, but we'll see if I said something similar. The Broncos were never likely to trade draft picks, something they have been short of since dealing Russell Wilson and Sean Payton for Cook, no matter how much they liked him. But if he were to become a free agent, perhaps that changes things. Payton is a major selling point. Even if playing with Wilson doesn't carry the same luster it once did, Payton's success with running backs in New Orleans figures to help Denver's case. Look at what the former Saints coach did over the years with Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Darren Sproles, Deuce McAllister, Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, and Latavius Murray. Denver parted with a couple backs recently, and don't forget, George Paton, the Broncos general manager, was the Vikings assistant general manager when they drafted Cook. Wow, that's a connection that I knew, but I forgot. Um, Javonte Williams is still very much in the mix to start. They did sign Samaje Perine from the Indianapolis Colts, for those who don't know who that is, to play an important role this season. But Williams' recovery from an ACL injury can't be forgotten. Perine has always been a complementary piece that makes Cook seem like a real possibility. Number 3 is the New Orleans Saints. Kamara has seen his productivity decrease the past 2 seasons. There might be a legitimate avenue for Cook to find a featured role in New Orleans. With Derek Carr signing, the Saints are indicating that they're aiming for a division title. And the NFC looks ripe for picking after every team, right for the picking after every team finished below 500. Number 4 is the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys weren't interested in DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure why this would be any different because I do believe that they need probably a wide receiver more than they need a running back. Tony Pollard had a breakout season last year. Um, Maybe it would be cheaper. That's why the Cowboys could be interested. But right now, the best options to play alongside Tony Pollard in the backfield include Malik Davis, Ronald Jones, Rico Dowdle, and Deuce Vaughn, the 6 rounder that's like 5'5" that we were looking at. The one that his dad works for the Cowboys and called his son and said, "You want to come to work with me?" That amazing story, that Deuce Vaughn, that guy is going to be in the mix to split the load with Tony Pollard. So not a ton of depth. Definitely not names that jump off the page. I mean, Malik Davis only has 38 career carries. Ronald Jones only has 17 career carries. Rico Dodal has 7 career carries. And Deuce Vaughn has 0. So they said that they were open to bringing back Ezekiel Elliott if it was for the right price at the right time. Now, I just want to say how much of a jab it would be to the gut of Ezekiel Elliott if the Cowboys did go after Delvin Cook. I think it would be the smart move. I would rather have Delvin Cook than Ezekiel Elliott, but I do think feelings will be hurt. The next team is the Buffalo Bills. Cook might be attracted to the Bills for a chance to play with his younger brother, James Cook. That would be an amazing thing to see. But we'll have to see. I don't know what they look like money wise. The Bills also signed Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. So Latavius Murray, I saw him up close last year. That guy still got he's still got football in him. He's good for 4 yards a carry. He's a big, healthy running back. He's a leader. Great guy. I don't see really a spot for Delvin Cook unless they were kind of forcing the brother thing. And then the New York Jets were another team. There's one more team, but I don't know how I feel about it. So the New York Jets, they've acquired Aaron Rodgers. They are trying to win a Super Bowl. They're got all their cards, all their chips are on the table. This could be another move that they do to extend their all-in approach and pursue Cook, partly as a way to get backfield depth, but also to keep him from the division rival Dolphins. And this is what we have seen smart GMs do. It's not just that you're taking Frank Clark, for instance, it's that you're taking Frank Clark from Kansas City, right? So they get less, you get more. It's a double whammy. So the Jets may be looking just to make sure that a team that already is threatening to be a top 3 offense in the league doesn't get their hands on Delvin Cook, because that would be detrimental to the AFC East. So the last team is the Cardinals. I don't see this one. The Cardinals are clearly in a bunch of, they're in a full rebuild. When you're in a rebuild, you just don't hand out big contracts. That's why they parted ways with DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't really see this one. I know that they don't have a good running back, but you also got to think, does Dalvin Cook even want to play for a team that finished with a 4-13 record after playing in Minnesota? Had some success last year, but besides that, not a ton to really write home about. So I do think Dalvin Cook's probably in that part of his career where Dallas, Buffalo, the Jets, I think the Broncos will be good. and the Dolphins all make sense. And we'll have to wait till tomorrow to see who's lucky, or even if this gets done after 1 year. And then there was a story that came out. Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle for the Denver Broncos, he had an interview, and Sean Payton's now in charge, and Denver has a renewed sense of optimism. Garrett Bowles, as one of the hopefuls who not only believes the Broncos will surprise folks, but also that Wilson is going to shock the world. He's a great dude. This is what Bowles said today. He's a great dude. He's the same guy every single day. He works his butt off, and I'm ready for that stuff to go away. When it goes, everyone's going to eat crow. Denver's got that offensive line. I mean, you know what? When we got Russell Wilson, there was a belief that we had the missing piece, that we were going to go to the Super Bowl. Things were going to be different. And not just the fan base, but every single one of the people on the 52-man roster also had those types of expectations and beliefs. And when you have those types of expectations and you land hard, you don't get to keep everybody together all the time. Some people you lose. They don't have the ability to, muster that hope back up because they've already been let down. What I love about this team is that the one thing that probably the only thing that exists for the players on this team to have that faith arise again was signing Sean Payton. And now I'm hearing things like this from the offensive line, from the players, from the receivers. Everybody's got that hope back. And now there's a real reason to be optimistic. We have one of the top 3 coaches in the NFL, in most people's opinion. So between the Delvin Cook, the Frank Clark, and what Garrett Bowles said today, I know it seems like a lot of Broncos news, but if it would have been any other team, I would have gone over all 3 of those anyway. And then I wanted to do a news roundup, the latest from June 8th. So I'm just going to scroll through here. J.C. Horn will miss the rest of organized team activities and minicamp with an injury to his left ankle, but he's expected to be fully recovered in time for training camp. The team announced that on Thursday. CeeDee Lamb hit his left knee in practice and probably won't participate in Thursday's conclusion of minicamp. So CeeDee Lamb with the stinger in the knee. The Broncos signing Frank Clark, of course. Delvin Cook expected to be released on Friday. Will Parks, defensive back, was cut from the New York Jets. And let's see if any of these names stand out. The Bucks basically signed 5 of their rookies that they just drafted. So that is your news roundup. Hopefully those high caliber players that sustained those injuries, hopefully they're not serious. Bryce Young has officially ascended to the throne. This is what I wanted to end it on. And I know it wasn't a super long episode. I'm working my butt off over here to make sure that I keep you guys up to date with the news. And I know you guys will watch it when you watch it. But Frank Reich promotes Bryce Young to first team OTAs. Won't name him week 1 starter yet. So that is a little strange. Like, if you're going to draft somebody with the number 1 overall pick, normally the idea is that player is going to go in, he's going to start, he's going to, take that role immediately. But the number 1 overall pick took his place atop the highest Panthers pedestal on Thursday, and he joined the starting lineup today for the first time in Carolina's organized team activities. So Frank Reich told reporters that it's all part of his plan to have Young ready to go for training camp, the regular season, and beyond. So Bryce Young has taken snaps with the number 1s this week. That was something at the beginning that the general manager and I kind of earmarked the time when we thought it would be best. So I think that this was just more of like, hey, let's not throw this guy into the fire. Let's, make him think that he has to earn it. I would say that's kind of treating him like a child, but if you see him, he kind of looks like a child. So this is all probably just the style of head coaching. Like, I don't care if you're the first round overall pick. Like, that means that you were great at Alabama. You haven't done anything as a Panther. And, if you earn that job, we'll give it to you. But, there's like layers to it. Behind that layer, it's like, we drafted you to be our franchise quarterback. You know what I mean? And we're trying to save that so that you're ready to be that. So, I mean, I think everybody probably understands what's going on here, but congratulations to Bryce Young for officially making the number ones in OTAs, and he will definitely be the starting quarterback for the Panthers, knock on wood, when week 1 kicks off. And I'm going to be doing a special episode coming up to make up for the episode that we missed on Wednesday. But man, it's been a great time over here. You can see my hands are totally jacked up with blisters. I'm bleeding. I have cuts. My hands hurt. I haven't slept very much. But I do have something to show you. I did win a medal. This is the gold. So I just wanted to show you guys what I'm doing over here, the hard work that I'm putting in. So yeah, that's what I've been doing over here, but I'll be back home soon, and I will talk to you guys in a little bit. For now, that's all I got, but thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding, to me, that there are things going on in life besides this podcast. Not in a position to do this full time. And until I am, there's going to have to be days that things are moved a little bit. I mean, just look at the Kelsey brothers. They got their own podcast. And even on their podcast, they're like, we come to you live once a week on Wednesdays mostly. If we can, it's because they have jobs. You know what I mean? So no matter how much money you got, if you have a full-time job, it is really hard to have a full-time hobby because your job doesn't care about your hobbies. But hopefully one day we'll turn this around and make this the first time, or make this our first priority, because it will be our job. And you can help us get to that place by subscribing, by sharing this podcast with a friend. Most of our subscribers have come from our shorts, but that doesn't mean that you guys can't make a difference. Help our dreams come true. I would love nothing more to wake up every single morning and just focus on making content. I just can't imagine how great this channel could become if we could get to that point. So do everything you guys can, and we'll do everything we can. And until then, we will see you next week, or maybe a surprise episode this weekend. Until then, go Broncos. See ya!